Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. Just go to audiotrial.com/beat and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a title for free and start listening. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/BEAT. When was your first introduction to the fabled bromance?
Oh my gosh. I think the closest thing, or the first time I felt that, probably is when I watched like Lethal Weapon 2 when I was like 7 or 6.
Yeah, there you go.
Because at this point, like Riggs and Murtaugh, they were they were in a relationship.
Like they were getting it on.
Yeah.
Getting a freaking get it. Anyways, welcome back. Welcome back to Super Throwback to the Classics. The cinematic movie podcast takes you back to movies over 21 years ago and beyond. Brought to you here by iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Apple Music, because it's no longer iTunes. I gotta keep remembering that. We also have Spreaker. We're on YouTube. We're on everything, y'all. I'm your host, David Ancient Neff, and with me, of course, is my good friend
Leland Hairston. I'm listening to iTunes on my iPod.
So you haven't upgraded to Apple Music?
I can't remember last time I logged into my Apple account.
Apple, you did not hear that. Please, we need your money. And it's funny because, as you guys heard, I just announced that we have a sponsorship. Finally, first time in this show's history. With Audible. So yes, I'm totally going to plug that away. It is such cool information for that to happen. Yeah, I think it's dope.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
we're getting paid.
If you haven't used Audible yet, go do it. Go listen to Audible because it is awesome. I have like 15 books on there. Go get it.
I'm going to quiz you on those books, like every single one of them.
Oh my gosh. I got a bunch of Sword of Truth books. It's mostly like fantasy fiction. So my nerd stuff.
Lund, how was your week?
Not too bad. Did some work, put in some floors.
Yeah. You were moving your wife's parents, right?
Yes. And I became a carpenter and also put in some vinyl wood simulated slats on the ground.
So you do movie podcasts, you work for the city, you're now a part-time carpenter. What can't you do?
I can't do Windows.
He can't do Windows yet. But he can't do Windows yet, people.
Can't do it on command.
But if you give him half a day of training, he'll lather and slather those puppies up. Oh man. I'm really excited about this movie that we're about to do. But I know the Emmys were on last night, and unfortunately I didn't get to watch it. I know you didn't get to watch it either. But there was some real news that kind of dropped out of there. Peter Dinklage, of course, wins for fourth time for Game of Thrones, and he he dropped like the F word. Like no problem.
I think there should be a Game of Thrones sequel where it's just Tyrion Lannister saying stuff in a room while he drinks beer.
That's it. I drink and I know things. That's all I know.
I think it'd be a pretty good show.
I think so too. Would you watch it?
I would definitely watch it.
But you never watched like Game of Thrones. You weren't like into it like that.
I mean, look, the show's really good. I don't know. I'm just an old fuddy-duddy. Okay, like I grew up.
I like my women clothed and no penis is shown.
Hey. You can show some pipe and naked chicks all you want. I grew up with Lord of the Rings, so like it's the battle of the RRs.
So let me ask that. When it comes to, because Amazon is dropping a whole lot. They're dropping a Lord of the Rings TV show.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're also dropping a Wheel of Time show.
Ooh.
And there was like big talk of like I've read. You know what? I've never read The Hobbit, but I've read
Hobbit's the easy one.
Yeah, the Hobbit's the easy one. I've read the LOTR, trilogy. I never read Wheel of Time though. Have you?
I think I read like the first book I think it's one of those things where the books are of good quality. Just it got away from me. In life, you could start reading a book series and just 10 years pass by.
But there was one big news. The first openly gay black man won for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series, and we're talking about Billy Porter for the TV show Pose. That's pretty fantastic. Last year he went to the Emmys and he wore like this like suit dress. He looked fabulous, but and I'm straight. Like I'm like, wow, that you really pulled that one off. If I ever got caught wearing that though, like I'm pretty sure I'd get gunned down.
You might be able to pull it off. Look,
I don't know, man. Here I am twirling my hair, looking into Lund's big, beautiful eyes, while he's saying this.
What you have to remember, people, is that we live in the future. So soon, Taco Bell's going to be the only restaurant.
Yes.
People are going to be wearing dresses. Woo, cars are going to drive themselves, and get used to the 3 shells.
Get used to the 3 shells. Let me ask this for you before we get into today's movie, because unfortunately there's not a lot of news that dropped. Ad Astra came out this weekend, and I'm so bad with this. Like I haven't gone to the movies in forever, and like I know people are like, oh well. It's funny because ever since I started the show, like everybody's all like getting my opinions on movies now, and I'm like I don't know why you consider me an expert. like I'm just doing what I normally do.
You only have a movie podcast,
right? It's like what would happen if I had like a girl talk podcast? Like do suddenly people think that like get all these chicks and whatnot? Look, here's what I believe that you should say to a girl.
Wow, I feel like that would automatically fail. Just
wow. No confidence. You know what? Now I know what my next podcast is going to be.
Not with that accent.
Listen, here's what you do. You grab a big giant club, right? And you decide to just sneak up right on him. And you just, you give him a little dilly right across the head. And then you're dragging him, barefoot all the way down to back to the cave and creek.
Look, do you know the difference between women and men?
No.
There is no difference. They're people just like you and me. They have their own wants and needs and desires, and talk to them like people. There you go.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. That's why I got a club in the head so they can do some more. What are you talking about?
Anyway.
Oh, man. This podcast is going swimmingly so far.
Off the rails already.
So I got to ask you, and this is, and now we're going to actually get into like the movie stuff that happens today. What is your favorite Patrick Swayze movie?
Ooh, this is really close. The movie we're going to talk about is, I would say, very, very close second. I have to say my favorite Patrick Swayze movie is Roadhouse.
Yeah? Why Roadhouse?
Man, here's the thing. So a lot of the super awesome vibes in this movie kind of took over. Like, kind of came from Roadhouse. Like, the genesis, I feel like, of what Patrick Swayze's character in this is, kind of comes from that. Because, like, you have this guy who's, in shape, physical, good looking, but also very philosophical. I feel like, like, not to get overly political or,
No, get political.
Talking about social stuff. But, like, I feel like, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of people, a lot of dudes, a lot of white dudes. Who are just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to be cool. Go watch Roadhouse and do what Sam Elliott and Patrick Swayze does, and then you'll be a cool guy.
Rinse and repeat.
Just keep doing it.
Keep doing that.
Yeah, because I feel like that's just like, look, in that movie, he's the perfect character, right? Because it's like,
right,
he's a warrior in a garden,
right?
Like he tends the garden, but also he can fight. Like the thing is, he just does his thing and works hard, and then people appreciate him, and the legend builds, and that's how you get through life. That's how you do it.
How about this? What do you think is like the ultimate like 90s movie? Like when you really think of like all the movies that came out in the 1990s, what's the movie that like encapsulates like everything in the 90s was about?
Ooh. Are you fishing for this movie?
No, not at all. Although I will say that my answer to that question is this movie.
I feel like Blast from the Past.
Explain.
That's
What an obscure movie.
I don't know, like Alicia Silverstone. You have
Okay, yeah, she was prominent in the 1990s. Yeah,
super 90s, like just like every like it's like you take every like weird 60s like nuclear scare trope and then you unpackage it in the middle of the 1990s, which are super 1990s.
Right.
So it like it's like a turducken of like decade based like stereotypes.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. I think so.
I mean, the movie has a gay best friend.
So if you guys don't know what the movie that we're talking about today, at least with some of those hints that Lund totally did not catch on into basically dropping here, we're taking it back all the way back to July 10th, 1991 with the movie. You make me want to say Roadhouse. It's not Roadhouse.
It's Point Break.
It's Point Break.
No, Point Break is amazing.
Original release date is July 10th, 1991. It shares an opening weekend with a host of movies that like are so classic to today. It was a second weekend for Terminator 2.
Name being that.
The re-release of 101 Dalmatians came out. Boys in the Hood came out July 12th, so it was following that same weekend. The Harrison Ford a therapy movie regarding Henry had come out. And like the week after was also like you had Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey that came out, a Dragon Ball Z movie that came out. It was a really unique time because like spoof movies were like still big. Like Naked Gun 2.5, I think was there. I think a month later, Hot Shots had came out.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like every genre of movies represented around this movie.
Right. You have like the beginning real talk of like black police brutality and crime. It was like the first real serious one. I mean, it's fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but it's a tough movie to watch even nowadays.
What, Boys in the Hood?
Yeah.
I love that movie. I'll watch that anytime.
I mean, and then Terminator 2, obviously, a lot of people still consider the best action movie of all time.
I love that movie. I'll watch it anytime.
There's a lot of movies that came out in 91 that I'm just like, y'all are sleeping on 91. Like it was like, you know why? Because you don't think of 1991 as like the 1990s. You think of it as like ending the 1980s.
Sure.
You know? So it's like there's still things, there's like residue crap from the 1980s that's still here.
Right. The decade residue.
Right. And so this movie kind of encapsulates this. This movie came in with a budget of $24 million, box office of $83.5 million. Rotten Tomato score I thought was a little hilarious though.
Yeah, bring that up. Let's see what this is going to look like here.
So Rotten Tomato, funny. Why would you do that? So the Rotten Tomato score for this particular movie, it got a 69% from critics and then a 79% from audience. Do you think that's fair?
I feel like you should increase both those numbers 10%.
10%?
Easily.
So critics should have been a little bit nicer, but audiences clearly should have been like, you should have been amazed.
No, think about it, right? Because anyone who's talking about that movie now, like, look, the movie's so good and it so represents bromance that they like reference it like 100 times in Hot Fuzz.
Oh, exactly. Like it's funny because it really holds a legacy like later on. About everything that's kind of going on in the world, and it's something that I truly love, really, really, really love about this movie. Now, why did I choose it for Super Throwback September? Because we're talking about 90s movies, right? And this movie, in my opinion, encapsulates something that we hadn't talked about yet with 90s movies. It hits all the acting perspectives of 90s because you literally have bad acting.
Yeah.
Two characters that are bad, good acting.
Right.
And then you have great acting.
Right.
Okay. And like, I feel like in every memorable 90s movie, there's always like bad acting. And in this case, I'm going to tell you guys who it is. Bad acting, Keanu Reeves. All right. A lot of people, I love his character, but his lines and his delivery is just so out there.
Right. Like, I feel like this is the time where, because this is like before Speed and all that, and it's like, I feel like he has the action guy look for the 90s, but like the roles aren't really syncing up for the type of acting that Keanu Reeves is good at.
This was his first action role.
Right.
Like he didn't break out until Speed because he would still pull off like he still had Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which was kind of like a stoner goofball movie, right? And so was Bogus Journey, even though they never smoked. So I don't know how you could consider it
They were just like righteous, sort of like
dorks,
kind of surfer. Like they never surfed, but it was kind of.
You get the feeling they would boogie board all the time,
right? Like you feel like maybe they're stoners, maybe they're surfers, but they just like hang out at the mall,
right?
Like,
they do nothing. But everybody loved it because they were just yeah, bro.
Oh, they're totally cool, righteous bros, man.
Right, exactly. You know, and then Swayze at this point was a bona fide star, obviously, because Dirty Dancing obviously came out. Roadhouse, we saw how great he could be in an action movie, and I do give you credit on that.
Amazing.
But there, and then of course, Ghost had come out, I think in 1990?
Is Ghost before this?
I think it is.
Oh, wow.
I actually think Ghost, I'll double check that. But what was really interesting about this is a movie that like you knew who the protagonist was, but then you could have swore the protagonist switched at one point. And then when they make Bodhi so likable in this movie, like until the bank robbery scene, like the ultimate one where like people actually die and whatnot.
Sure.
Awesome. You were still kind of Team Bodhi a little bit in this.
Right. He kind of eventually has to shed his like naivete to kind of accomplish his goals. But then again, so does Johnny, sort of.
Well, Johnny had to grow up.
Right.
Johnny for sure had to grow up.
So, I mean, it's like even though they're kind of antagonists to each other, they like match each other.
Yeah, I agree. It was so weird. It was so weird in this movie because Johnny, first of all, why I like Keanu Reeves so much is because there was I don't want to say there wasn't depth to him. There was absolute depth. It's just he played it so... He played it exactly how the role is written for him. Because if I tell you the synopsis for this movie, an FBI agent tracks down bank robbers who also turn out to be surfers. If I tell you that, it sounds like an awful movie.
Whoa! You forgot college football star, turn FBI agent,
right. Ghost had actually came out, by the way, in 1990. So at this point, yeah. Swayze's bona fide star.
He put in his heavy lifting already.
I mean, yeah. If you think, I want you to really think about this. Do you know what would probably be his next most memorable role after all of those? Like this was his last amazing role in my eyes. Outside of The Beast was a good show.
I don't even remember The Beast.
Do you know what would be his next like?
The next thing I can think of is Donnie Darko.
Okay, sure. Donnie Darko. I mean, was he in? Yeah, he was.
He definitely was.
He was the gym teacher.
Well, no. He was the motivational speaker.
That's it. Yeah.
You find out is not a good dude.
Right. No. To Wong Fu. Thanks for everything.
Oh, that would be the next one.
Like how? What happened?
I like that movie too.
Look, I love that movie, but it's like when you're sitting there, you're like, what happened? Like, how was a director able to convince Swayze, John Leguizamo, and Wesley Snipes to do that role?
Well, Wesley Snipes. Did he need the money at that point? Did he already know the IRS?
I don't know.
I mean, John Leguizamo was kind of a goofball anyways.
I'm okay with Leguizamo being in there.
I mean, look, Arnold had to make Kindergarten Cop, right? So
yeah, but Kindergarten Cop was actually like it didn't really. He wasn't a cross-dresser, okay? There were a lot of questions like with that movie. I'm like, I kind of want to put this as that super throwback, but I think I'd be insulting myself.
Look, that movie was before its time.
Way before its time.
Back to this movie.
I like how you don't want to talk about it. You're like, I don't want to talk about it, man.
Oh, well, I mean, I'll talk about the movie. I think it's an awesome road trip / cross-dressers finding themselves, and it's it's thoroughly entertaining.
All right, man. So let's kick off this movie.
All right, let's go.
So this movie has a really cool montage. It's directed by Catherine Bigelow, who at the time was still married to James Cameron.
Right.
And it's kind of this cool montage because you're seeing a whole bunch of surfers kind of going, right? And then you have like Keanu like going through training.
Right. It's juxtaposed with Johnny Utah.
Right.
Doing combat roles like in the mud with like a shotgun shooting targets.
Right. And it's kind of a it's kind of unique because he like kind of comes in and like immediately like he's already kind of a hot shot coming out of the academy. He hasn't done shit.
They keep calling him this blue flamer.
Yeah, the blue flamer. And so John C. McGinley, who plays Ben Harp in this, who's Captain Harp, I think. I think is his role.
He's in charge.
Yeah, so he's in charge, and he is played so smug like by McGinley that some of the lines are just. Are just hilarious.
Like you slip on the lines; they're so greasy.
Oh man, they're terrific.
I think I think this is one of the first actors talking about that are good actors acting badly.
Yes, and he's one of the two.
He's totally like the Tweedly guy that you want to punch, and like he's just that guy. He's just like the kind of guy.
He's like, you're real blue flame special, aren't you? Young, dumb, and full of cum. I know. What I don't know is how you got assigned here. Like, who wrote that?
Must be a real
young,
asshole.
Dumb, and guess we must just have ourselves an asshole shortage, huh? It's like, who wrote that? Because there's a lot to break down there.
Who talks like that? Who thinks like that?
But it kills me because I'm like, it's so smug. It's so smug and so asshole-ish, but it works. It's a dumb, very dumb line, but it's so funny to just listen to.
Yeah, every time that guy shows up in the movie, you know there's going to be definitely some smoke getting blown up hot air blown up your ass.
Oh man, I would think he's the most miserable person out there. Like, he has to be, right?
Right. Like, he's one of those guys, he's supposed to be so by the books that he's tripping over the books. Like, and that's giving him a wedgie or something.
Right. And so, in this process, like Johnny kind of comes out with, like, a couple of stats. Sounds like something you could have read off of something. Sounds impressive. But we also get the introduction, of course, to the second good character in this, and that's Angelo Papas, played by pre-insane
Gary frickin' Busey.
No, you can say fucking in this one. Gary fucking Busey. And his lines are just as nuts. But, man, if there was one person that could pull off these lines and actually make them sound kind of hilarious, it was definitely Busey.
Yeah, he's a genius. Put him in the next Marvel movie.
Redeem him.
Redeem him like we did with Robert Downey Jr.
He is definitely insane now. You know, I remember like he has like this whole thing against Harper or Harp, and he like kind of gets into this whole huge explanation. This is way towards the end of the movie, obviously, but he's over here and he's all like. He's all like, yeah, that's right, Harp. And out of all these years, I've learned something that you still haven't got. He's like, again, Harp with the hilarious line. Yeah, why don't you astonish me, shitface?
Dr. Coxford.
He knocks him out. He's all like, respect for my elders.
Yeah, respect for my elders.
But
you know, and I think it's perfectly fine to talk about this movie out of order because I feel like all the scenes like in sequence don't matter.
Well,
kind of in this movie.
So definitely in the 2015 like remake that they had of this there was a reason why it wasn't superior, and a lot of it was because this movie is a little goofy in its seriousness, but it's also like trying to convey like some smart stuff that's kind of coming out of it.
There's some definite like I feel like there is an overall sort of philosophy and point to this movie.
Right.
But you kind of don't get there to the end. Like time doesn't really work linearly. It's circular.
It definitely is circular here. So what winds up happening is that it is Los Angeles at this point, and mind you, this movie had a major impact later on to Los Angeles in a negative way. Like they had like a 300% increase in bank robberies
After this movie?
After like in 1991. It was something ridiculous. They had like 2,600
Wow.
in Los Angeles area by itself.
Well, this movie shows you how easy it is to rob a bank
yeah.
in Los Angeles. And this movie is very much of its like this is very much a movie of the 90s in LA.
Right.
Every scene screams it.
Right. So they get this introduction to the two of them, and again, they're kind of like going back and forth. And he has a theory, and so Angelo has this theory about who all these bank robbers are basically done by. But he doesn't want to do it because, like, the department basically thinks he's like loopy now.
Yeah, everyone's giving him shit because he has this theory, and spoiler alert, it's right on the money.
Right.
But everyone's like, "Oh, you're a lunatic."
Right, exactly. But Johnny was like, this is like the first time like he way overacts the scene. He's like, "Aren't you mad?" He's like, "Yeah, man." He's
Hell
like,
yeah, man.
It's like makes you feel good, makes you feel alive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. You know, let's go get some fucking bank robbers. I'm like, dude, you're at the scene of a crime.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
What are you doing? And it's like, what's your theory? It's like, they're surfers. And he's like, huh?
Right.
Huh?
So he's like, they're surfers, but it's spot on, and it actually kind of makes sense. Like, and what it is that you get this introduction to the ex-presidents. Do you know the presidents that they all represented?
Okay, so like you had Nixon, you had LBJ, Reagan, obviously. I'm missing one. Eisenhower? No, go.
No, it's Nixon, LBJ, Jimmy Carter, and Ronald Reagan. Right. Fun trivia fact and spoiler alert. The order that everybody dies in this movie out of that group is actually the order of how all the presidents actually serve their terms. Like it goes, because it was Nixon, and then it was LBJ, Carter, and then Reagan. Obviously, those were, so they kind of did that on purpose, as you could tell.
That's actually pretty sweet.
And this was a really cool bank robber scene because you get this introduction to the ex-presidents, and you don't see who it is, but you obviously know that's going to be Patrick Swayze.
Yeah, you can tell who the leader is going to be. And
right. They kind of come in, and it's a solid operation. 90 seconds, in or out. They only hit the cash drawers. Nobody gets hurt. And that is such a huge mantra in this movie that, like, no violence. They're not big into violence at all.
Right.
And it's something that actually stays very clear with that group until literally the very end of this movie.
Yeah, everything gets shit, everything goes to shit.
Right.
And that's when bad things start happening.
Right. But in the process of them actually figuring out, like this case, they find some like residue stuff where they kind of see where these guys are, and it seems like they could be surfers. Yeah. But one of the big clues that they had about it, and it was something that I was a little curious why Johnny didn't catch on to this a little bit earlier, but the season that they were basically in because they literally said, "Oh, well, they're only operating from June to October."
Yeah, they're only doing the summer,
right? Which is a little, which would basically tell you that they only work summer. So it was kind of mentioned in the later line how they're basically only here for the summer. It's like how'd you miss that?
Yeah, how'd you miss that, rookie? How did Harp like, to me, what trips me out about that is like Harp's big thing is like we follow the data, we follow the clues, and that's how we catch these guys.
Right.
And then no one ever bothered to think like, why do these guys rob banks during the summer?
Right.
Every year.
Right. How is it that you guys aren't like scoping that out immediately? No. So anyway, so Johnny comes up with this brilliant idea. And there's a shot in the trailer, it wasn't used for the final cut, where Harp kind of gets on his ass, for bringing his surfboard into there. And he's like, "Well, I'm not paying you to sit around, just check out chicks all the time." And Johnny goes, "Babes." He goes, "Excuse me?" He's all like, the correct term is babes. And I'm like, I'm so glad that did not make the final cut because that was cheesy as fuck.
It's kind of dumb.
He gets this brilliant idea to go ahead and start surfing, and his first try was surfing failed miserably.
Yeah.
He nearly drowns.
He almost drowns.
And this is when we get the introduction to Lori Petty, who is playing the character Tyler.
Tyler.
I want to make sure I got that right.
Yeah, Tank Girl herself.
Right, it's Tank Girl. She was also in Orange Is the New Black.
A League of Her Own. The sister.
Yeah, and she was cool in this. Like she was definitely hot.
Right.
I'll say that. What do you think?
Yeah, I probably like her in this movie more than other movies. I mean, she's definitely like the 90s chick, right? She's definitely like the, she's
a little angry.
Right. A little like, what are you doing here? You don't belong here. Like, I'll teach you, but, you suck, and I'm going to tell you suck.
Right.
Type of.
Right.
And then 180s once.
And to really figure out how they were for sure using like surfboards and whatnot. Like one of the things they found was like the sex wax.
Right, the Karuba wax, which has a bunch of different uses, but
right, but they were basically using this to ride out the waves,
like
and then that's where the robberies would kind of happen. Also, like close to where the waves were hitting at the time, wherever they were using.
Another thing they should have picked up was like, why are all these robberies just happening near the beach? Like,
right. So Johnny realizes that he needs to find some sort of angle to kind of get in, and this is where I think the writing kind of shored itself up a little bit because he tells this story where he's like, where to basically get Lori Petty to teach him how to surf. They find some background information from the FBI. Again, great writing. And her parents had died, and so he kind of tells this story. But there are parts to his story that he's actually telling the truth on.
Right.
Because come to find out, Johnny fucking Utah was not only a college football player, but he was at one point the college football player for the Ohio State University playing against USC in the Rose Bowl of that particular year.
Right.
So it mattered like back then. Funny enough, that actually did happen in 1984. So if you kind of follow a timeline of events, especially because he's 25 in this movie, as he claims.
He does say that he's 25.
Right. You kind of get the idea that it probably could have followed within that timeline of if this movie dropped in like 1990, 1991, where 7 years later, he's starting his FBI training, he becomes an FBI agent from not figuring out his life or whatever. Anyways, so again, that's why I think that's pretty good writing. So
it's so wacky that it's just like this football star who's actually really smart becomes an FBI agent.
I know. It's one of the things that kind of drives me nuts about this movie. I was like, it's not plausible. It's a little plausible.
There's a lot of wacky things like football players, FBI agents, and surfers or bank robbers.
Right. So he basically kind of figures out like early on that very much like surfing, especially as a group, is kind of like a collective thing.
Right.
And he finds like these four guys, and what happens is that he basically catches a wave, and really he shouldn't have caught that wave. Like it was pretty clear that guy was catching the wave early on.
Right.
And he gets the shit kicked out of him. Right. And it looks like it's about to get even worse when you get the introduction to Bodhi just before, very briefly, but you get the introduction. He's played super cool by Swayze, right?
Oh yeah.
And he's about to get the crap kicked out of him from these guys, which, by the way, Anthony Kiedis, lead singer of Red Hot Chili Peppers, is saying, he's like, oh, we're gonna mess you up, man. Right. Funny enough, their famous record, featured Sex Magic Love or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's something like that, right?
I think you said kind of a Justin Timberlake one, but yeah, it's something like that.
Sure, whatever.
Funk something.
Funk
magic.
Sex. I know sex is in there somewhere. And love. Anyways, that record actually would drop 2 months after this movie, and it was a huge hit. I'm curious if this actually had anything to do with that.
Hey, everything boosts everything else.
Right. And so he kind of like almost gets into this fight with these guys. Well, he does. He gets into a fight with these guys. His surfboard is broken in the process. Bodhi comes out of nowhere while Angelo is taking his sweet ass time
Because
to get over there.
Is it like one of those things where like he's watching him and then like he looks away for a second and then the guys come to like
he like gets out of view for him and he's all like Utah, where you at, Utah? And he can't find him and then he like comes running across and he looks so slow,
so winded,
and so tired.
But it doesn't matter because Bodhi comes and they go back to back. And he unleashes the power of sweet ass roundhouses,
and it's so dope. Like it's a really really cool early little fight that kind of happens.
Yeah, we get a bleach blonde Dalton just kicking the shit out of these ripped surfer guys.
So after saying basically like thanks and Bodhi was like, oh, you haven't figured out what it means to like surf yet, huh? He's like, what do you mean? He's all like, and he talks about a little bit about the spiritual energy with like the waves, which is kind of weird,
like the ocean. Well,
right, but it's kind of cool as well. Like
I think
you're feeling it.
I feel like this feeds into my sort of philosophy and theory of the movie that we'll get to. But just remember that the ocean it feeds and it recedes. It comes in and it leaves and it gives life.
Did you just rhyme that?
Yes.
It feeds and it recedes and then it comes and then it leaves. What is this?
It gives and it takes away.
What is this? A daddy issue story?
No, it's the duality. It's the duality. Look, man, I'm telling you.
No, I love it. I love every
Look,
minute.
something gets started, all right, with the Swayze train, right? Something gets started in like Roadhouse. Right. And then like culminates in this movie.
Sure. I'll give you that. Anyway, So they kind of interact and you could tell the chemistry between them is really solid at that point because they're kind of like really cool, but
Well, let me rewind just a little bit, right? So when you said they get introduced to each other earlier on, right? And it is really short, but it's like at this bonfire, and it's like another one of those improbable ass Point Break moments because like
actually that happens later on.
Does that? No, I thought the bonfire happens before the fight.
No, it happens after.
Oh, okay. Well,
we'll get to that.
Okay, we'll get to that.
So Angelo and Keanu, or Angelo and Johnny, basically follow these guys. I think these guys are just driving like assholes. Like I was like watching it last night. I was getting irritated by how they were driving. I was like, if you were driving that way right now, you would get shot. No problem. Yeah. Like you were pissing me off. No problem.
This is after they think, because after the fight, they suspect that the guys that jump him are the robbers.
Right. So they think that they're the robbers because they're kind of like this angry group of people. They kind of pull up some of their priors, and like their priors like really match some stuff.
Like weren't they like doing like hate crimes and shit? And
yeah, I mean pretty much
they're doing
they were
all
like,
sorts of violent.
They were basically like meth dealers, and it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Anyways, but in the process of this, they do a stakeout, and then as the night crew kind of comes with the stakeout. Like, Johnny was invited to go with Tyler to this bonfire, and now I'm going to let you talk about this.
Okay, I swear to God, I feel like this scene happens earlier. But, so, like, okay, my next Point Break and problem moment, right? So, like, he's hanging out with the surfers, and this is, like, right after... See, this is why I feel like it happened earlier, right? Because this is right after, like, everyone sees Tyler and Johnny together for the first time, and Bodhi's just kind of like, oh, you're trying to replace me? And just like, oh, where'd you drag this guy up from? He surfs good.
Well, that wasn't the bonfire. That was just a football match. It did. Turn out to be, right.
Okay, sure. So so it was the football match. So the thing is, they're kind of like they're playing football and they're kind of giving him grief, right? Because they're just like he's the outsider. And it's like, hey man, why do you think you can come in here and do all this and do that? And then Bodhi like just steps in. And it's like he could do that because he's Johnny Utah, man. Right. He's all state. He's
like, don't you? First of all, these guys said a line that I'm like, yo, that's like millennial talk right there. Yeah. They're like, don't you think you're going a little too hard there, bro? Right. I'm like, did you millennial this? Like this is 91. What are you doing?
That's an excellent point. But also it's like, so you have this super righteous surfer dude who just all he cares about is just like the waves and feeling the energy of the earth. But also he's like, he follows college football. Like,
right.
What?
It's like, so he follows college football.
Isn't that just like dads? Like,
yeah, but it's kind of great.
No, I mean, it's like cool and it makes sense in the story, but also it's like, what?
Well, here's why I think that's plausible.
Sure, go for it.
The reason why is because of the two teams that were actually there. Because it was USC, University of Southern California, which definitely in between the two schools, probably at that time UCLA was a little bit better, but USC was like the more prominent school at the time.
Okay.
Right. And I can tell you, for Californian perspectives, like anytime USC is involved in like a bowl game or a Rose Bowl game or whatever, they usually know about it, and they usually know like what's going on during the game, right? They may not follow it, but like they usually kind of know like what's up.
Okay. Oh, look, I'll take your word for it. I mean, I've lived in California for 15 years of my life and never talked about college football.
Sure.
But I know you are an expert. You're tapping into your sports.
I don't want to say I'm an expert.
You're tapping into your sports writer cred here.
I'm just saying, like I know casual football fans that definitely knew the 2004 Rose Bowl team, for example.
Oh, sure. Well, here's the thing. They're active dudes. They have a football.
Right. So obviously, there's clearly like enjoyment.
There's a tie there. Look, there's a line.
That's all Catherine Bigelow needed to do was a simple tie-in scene.
You know what? I think there's something amazing about this movie too, because it's like this is such a bro movie.
Oh man,
directed by a woman.
Oh, I know, and that's what's hilarious about this because afterwards you kind of get like this party, and the
Point Break, the proof that sexism is bullshit.
Like. Not going on that one.
I mean, being sexist is bullshit.
Definitely not going on that one. They're like at this party and it's kind of cool, right? And then like Bodhi was like, "Hey man, like what's going on?" And then they're all kind of hanging out at the campfire, and like all of Bodhi's friends, and I'm pretty sure one of them is his little brother for sure.
Yeah.
It's kind of there, and they're all, to be honest, they're all kind of cool, but you know they're also kind of not, but because you have like Roach, right? You have Gromit, and then I think Nathan,
and then there's Rosie, but he's sort of
just like he's like the Undertaker.
He's like the only guy besides Bodhi that I can remember,
right?
Because the other three are like faceless, interchangeable, like.
In a way, yeah.
Just soul bros.
Anyway, so they're at this bonfire and they're just kind of talking and whatnot, and you know, there's a couple good jokes that are kind of being passed around through there. I can't remember what was the thing that Roach said. That Tyler was like, "Well, maybe you're just not doing it right there, Roach." It was something about sex. I'm not going to remember. That's terrible. Do you remember?
I can't. Because Johnny didn't say it, Bodhi didn't say it, so I don't remember. like if Johnny, Bodhi, if Harp or Pappas didn't say that, I don't remember.
I mean,
like here's the crazy thing about this movie. You literally see hundreds of people in this movie, right? But there might as well only be like 6 actors,
right?
In the whole movie,
right? Because really, you're definitely not wrong.
Everyone else is just collateral damage,
right? So anyway, like afterwards, like Johnny, like it's kind of funny because Johnny and Bodhi are kind of getting close at this point, even though Tyler is there,
right?
Like,
well, this is where the movie kind of takes that weird turn, right? Because it's like Johnny and Bodhi are super close, but Johnny and Tyler are falling in love, but you know he's super deep undercover, and it's like he knows he's just here to kind of like right now. He's just like, all right, I'm enjoying this life while I can until I catch those other dudes.
Right. So they go for like this night surfing, and it's really cool. It's really nicely shot. I ain't gonna lie. And then like Johnny's like kind of feeling the moment. He's all like he's in the he's in that bro phase that we all get. Like when everything's going right in our lives, we're all just like, yeah, man, I'm in. Cool. You know what it is? Patrice O'Neill had a perfect way of saying this.
Oh, go for it.
He was like, it's like that emotion you have when you like a girl, but you don't love her. Like the best relationship is when she loves you and you like her.
Right.
Because you're just kind of sitting there like, yeah, this is cool. Like, and that's where I was feeling that Keanu was at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was there. And then there's that like, you know, it's like the whole message of this movie, it kind of has this subtext of like the whole, like, surfing is like love, right? It's like
Right.
it's like that infatuation, right?
Right.
That love you can't really maintain unless you just allow it to blind you.
Right.
And it's like, I think, because it's like when you're a kid, right? And you lay on your back on the grass and you just stare up at the sky.
Yes.
And you just feel like, I'm one with the planet.
Right.
I'm Captain Planet. I could float up into the air. You know, you feel the same way when you lay in the surf. Like, if you're at the beach and you kind of lay in the surf, so the water's hitting you, but you're also like out of the water.
Again, when you don't have a worry in your life,
Yeah.
like at all, and you're just like sitting there and you're just feeling the moment.
Right, but it's also connected to that to nature. You know what I mean?
That's this movie
Yes.
to a T, and that's why I kind of consider it the ultimate '90s movie because the action starts really taking kind of a turn up. Like next scene, like first of all,
I definitely think it's the ultimate movie of a certain type of like everything's you know, that whole just that everyone has souls and we're all connected and we're connected to the earth,
right? And
which is true.
So and again, I want to talk going back to the acting on this, right?
Yeah.
Because again, Keanu, bad acting. McGinley and Busey is bad, good acting. Bodhi,
good acting.
good,
Swayze,
great
good,
acting,
amazing
acting.
acting.
You're like everything he says.
Look,
is just so cool.
I believe look, and it's like
I believe everything he said. He personally believes.
It's so like the kind of hippie-ish. Like, and I think this is sort of like the philosophy of the movie, because like I feel like there's with like Bodhi and Johnny, there's definitely like this kind of like yin and yang kind of Eastern thing where they're like each other's shadow and they're really the same,
right?
But they're supposed to represent different things. So everything's all about like the connection that's pulling and pushing each other, right? So it's like where Johnny is sort of like unconvinced. He's unconvincing because he's unconvinced. But Bodhi's totally dedicated, and you totally believe it.
Oh, he is so dedicated. He has a creed, is what it is.
Look, when Swayze and it's like he looks at Johnny, but it's like he's looking at you,
right?
And when he starts talking about his philosophy, you're just like, man, you're completely right. Where are we going?
Right.
I'll get in the van. Let's go do some stuff.
The funny thing is,
let's go jump off a mountain.
They actually say Bodhi's full name, and then it's like Bodhi's
Stavia
or something like that.
It's like
Satvia or something.
Bodhi, isn't that supposed to be like one of the like Hindu gods? Or
so it's something like that. It was like I looked it up, and it's like a Buddhist idea, and the name literally means wakefulness. Yes, Bodhi's name means woke.
Yeah, he's woke. No, Bodhi is super woke.
So anyways,
he's actually proto woke. He's woke before woke existed.
So anyways, so the action really kicks up in this because they decide to do this raid on these other guys, and it's a good action sequence, just straight up. I loved Busey in this because he immediately gets into his role. You know, where he's supposed to, be an FBI agent, but try to get in and all, he's all like whistling. Have you seen a dog like about this big?
Right. He's always sort of like the distraction man.
But not only that, but he plays it straight. Like you could tell he's not thinking about anything else but like that.
Right. So, this is the reality for him. He's looking for a dog.
So they go and they basically bust into this place and it gets intense. 2 guys die. Anthony Kiedis was supposed to actually have a fight sequence in this a little bit, but he was late to filming it. So they were just like, okay, well, you're just going to get shot in the foot. And that was that.
Right. And so when the raid starts, they kind of, so the surfer guys, because they underestimate him, they have full submachine weaponry and stuff, whatever. And they're about to get dropped onto the agents. Right. So the only person who can really save him is Johnny, but he's supposed to be maintaining his cover. Right. Because if any of these guys get away or for some reason they got to release him, they now know that he is an FBI agent.
Right. But everything is botched in the process. Come to find out, one of the guys that's actually in there was undercover DEA on scene. These guys were crystal meth guys. Yeah. And
they're trying to get the supplier.
My wife wants me to move to Ramona.
Right.
I'm like, I don't know how bad Ramona is, but that sounded bad.
Yeah, he's like, she won't let me come home.
She won't let me come home.
I had to grow this beard out.
Right. Do you see this hair? This isn't my hair. This is not how I like my hair. But so everything is fucked up, and
I felt legit bad for that guy, to be honest.
right, everything is fucked up, and then Harp, of course, busts Johnny's balls, and like I don't know why Harp is on Johnny so much harder than Papa's. I'm like, dude, Papa's has been in for 22 years. Why aren't you busting his ass?
I mean, I understand that these missions come with like super deep cover, but like these guys are like FBI, right? Type level. So like why like they're tracking these guys down and it's not like really a secret. So like why isn't there just some department head go like, hey, my guy's in there. Don't worry. Like
right. I don't understand why there's never communication between departments about this.
They always get mad at the guy who initiates the raid or whatever,
right? Or
shoots the most guys, but they're never just like, you, where's your boss? Because you should have been here in the first place,
right? So anyway, and this is where kind of the movie takes a spin on its head because we're about, I hate to say, we're only like an hour into this movie, and it kind of,
and it's like a 2-hour movie.
Yeah, it's a 2-hour movie, and it takes a spin on its own head because Johnny is sitting there like laying in bed, after having sex or whatever. He totally did that. Anyways,
he just had sex,
and he's sitting there, and he goes out surfing, and like his behavior changed because he sees 4 tightly knit guys like all together, no problem,
right?
And he sees that's Bodhi's group, and he's all like.
He's starting to bring it together because if it couldn't be the other guys,
a light bulb clicked. Yeah. And so he kind of has to explain to Papa's, and then the next day they're basically going to hit up this bank. That's going to happen. And this is one of my favorites. This is my favorite like Gary Busey movie of all time. Because he goes and he's all like, "This Calvin and Hobbes is funny." Like
what the
fuck? And he's sitting there and they're just kind of talking. They're doing a stakeout of this bank, knowing that that's going to happen. Oh yeah.
2.
So he goes, "Johnny, right around the corner from this place, there's a little shop there, and they serve these incredible meatball sandwiches. I want you to go there and get me 2 of them." And Johnny's like, "It's 10:30 in the morning." He's all like, "I know, I'm hungry. I want you to get these 2 meatball subs." And
hey, Johnny, 2 meatball subs.
Right.
Johnny, two.
He literally like crawls half his body out of the car. He's all like, "Hey, Utah, 2 meatball subs, 2 subs." And so Johnny goes and he pays for these subs, which by the way, 2 subs, fries, and 2 lemonade for $7.84 in California. Yeah, okay. You tell me where.
I'm getting in the DeLorean.
So, and in this process, an old Crown Victoria kind of pulls up behind him. Lo and behold, it's the ex-president's, but he doesn't see it because his back is turned to it.
Yeah, isn't he like looking at the paper again? He's all like, this guy's the king of just like, I know I should be looking at this place, but
I'm not looking at.
Let me go read my funnies.
So of course they all come crawling out, after everything. And it leads to this incredible chasing. And I'll just kind of fast forward this chasing a little bit. Cars chase each other, no problem. They eventually stop, and it goes on foot with Johnny and Bodhi, right? Bodhi in the Ronald Reagan mask at this point.
This is like,
mind you, Bodhi has torched the car in this process with with a gas pump.
Oh,
that was so cool.
He turned the gas pump into like a flamethrower,
right?
And it's crazy because like at this point, it's Johnny just as Johnny chasing these guys,
right?
So
right, there's no guarding his face or whatnot, and so he goes and starts taking off, and I mean it is a great sequence. At one point, like Bodhi like locks a back door, because he has some separation, and Johnny straight up goes and grabs whatever that was. I think it was a rock or something, and just smashes through this like glass door, and he keeps running, turns the corner. Like Bodhi's there with a pit bull and
throws it at him.
Throws a pit bull at him. Johnny winds up getting kind of nicked up a little bit and winds up kicking the pit bull. I would too at that. I love dogs, but I would too.
What an awesome! I love dogs. Definitely don't hurt dogs. But look, life or death. You're like, I gotta throw this dog at this guy's chasing me.
And so in this process, at the very end, they fall. Bodhi gets away a little bit and goes down to what do you call it? A sewage drain. Basically,
they're like in a storm runoff.
Yeah, a storm drain. It's a storm drain. Sorry.
Yeah, like
So they're in the storm drain.
an irrigation ditch.
Yeah, there you go. He's on this irrigation ditch and he starts climbing up. And Keanu jumps down, but he injures his knee in the process. And I'm really glad they actually talked about that, because early in the film, they talked about how he blew his knee out in the fourth quarter of this game.
Right.
It's all like,
oh, sure.
Good writing there.
But that's right. And like, so Keanu actually hurt himself.
Actually hurts
Isn't
his
that
knee.
where like he had all the trouble filming The Matrix from that injury because all the surgeries or something?
Yeah, I think so. So then he goes and it's probably the most iconic moment in here. He
Guess
goes
what
and
my
he looks
moment's
over-
going to be.
Yeah, this is probably my moment too. And Bodhi turns around with the mask, but you see his eyes. It's his eyes for sure.
It's totally
you know?
Bodhi.
And Keanu has his gun. He's laying off to his side.
And he has the beat on him, and we know.
And he has the shot.
We know what a good shot he is. Earlier,
Because we saw how great of a
perfect
shot he is.
score, 100 points, set a
Right.
new record.
And he goes and he's just like, ah! And he
Do,
unloads his
yeah.
clip like into the sky. And I mean, it is such emotion going through here. And you're just like, holy shit. like
Yeah,
like
and-
that happened.
And then Bodhi just keeps climbing.
Right. And he kind of moves on. But in the process, Pappas doesn't buy Utah's story of missing Bodhi, as he knows that how great of a shot he is. And he goes, if you're going to shoot, you shoot to hit. You know, and so Pappas kind of has a little bit of concerns at this point. But what's Utah to do at this point?
Yeah.
Of course, that night.
Right. This is where he's all rent because you know he knows.
Right.
Tyler doesn't know.
The only person that doesn't know is Tyler. Everybody else knows. And it's great because there's this sequence that like they're all talking with Bodhi, and this is when Bodhi really slightly falters, right? They're all like talking. They're like, we should just get the fuck out of town, man. Like, we gotta go. And he's all like, no, I want one more score. And I'm telling you, he had the shot on me or something like that. And so they all show up at like 1 a.m. Go and basically kidnap Bodhi or kidnap Utah.
They're pretty much like, trust us, this is gonna be fun. You know, you know when your friends bust in on you really late or really in the morning, just like, hey, just come with us.
Right.
You'll like this. Come with us.
Now, of course, what's Utah supposed to feel about this? Like he doesn't. First of all, there's no cell phone, so he can't contact it. He can't contact anybody. All he has is his badge. He had to leave his gun behind, you know. And so he's just like, I guess I kind of have to go with the plan. And what do? They decide to go skydiving, and it's a cool sequence.
Oh, it's really cool. Like every time they do any sort of like surfing or like extreme sports stuff in this movie, it's so awesome.
And in this process, like during the skydive, they lock
arms.
they lock arms.
They do a formation.
It was fucking amazing, bro. You know, and just like all that. And they're like,
I love
he's
you,
all like,
bro.
they're like, he's like, oh, I hurt my knee earlier. He's like, don't worry, we're not landing on land and whatnot. You know, and it's true, they land in water. They all kind of they kind of pack their bags and whatnot.
They like swim to the shore.
It's super like bromance at that point. You're just like, you're like, okay, this is cool. These are still the bad guys, Johnny. like these are still the bad guys, still the guys you're supposed to go after. And and Bodhi goes and he shows a video of Tyler, who is now kidnapped. By the way, Tyler at this point has figured out that he is an FBI agent, and he's pissed because he lied to her this whole time. Taking advantage of that,
his parents aren't dead.
Yeah, taking advantage of that, they kidnap him with Rosie, who does nothing but kill and drink.
Yeah,
and
he's
sit by
just
bonfires.
like their strong man.
He's a mechanism, is what he is.
Right.
Threatens to kill Tyler. The only way that Johnny can save her is by meeting at a certain location with Bodhi in 6 hours.
Right.
Right. And so they plan one last heist in this process. And on the way to the heist, as everybody's getting ready, we get the iconic line from Keanu. He's all like, Bodhi, you're out of your mind, man. I am an FBI agent. You know, and he's just,
Yes.
it's so bad, but it's so good at the same time. And it's just like there's this insanity with Swayze who's just like going over. And so they go, and to be honest, I had a problem with it because it was so unlike Bodhi, but they had to kind of have this mechanism start. So as they're
Well,
doing
like after kind of he finds out about Johnny, he starts becoming unhinged.
a little bit.
Because think about it, right? These guys,
He was a little heartbroken.
He's heartbroken. Also, they had been doing this perfectly until Johnny and Pops catch on to him. So it's like, not only did he break his heart, but they're overturning their world because they were just doing the thing and getting away with it.
Right.
And their whole philosophy of strength, if you project strength, you don't have to hurt anyone. But now that idea is kind of compromised.
So Bodhi, knowing that this is going to be the last heist he probably has to pull off in California at least, goes and he basically makes a fatal error. And the first thing he says is, everybody's going through the cash drawers, and it looks like it's going all the way through, no problem.
Yeah, it's going like usual, and then...
And he says, I want you guys to go for the vault. And they go for the vault. They get the vault open, no problem. But even everybody... Here's the best part about it. It's almost close enough to put Bodhi as the fool of this movie. Because his gang members are like, this is not the way we fucking do things, man.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter.
You're breaking the rules.
You're breaking your own rules. You're breaking your own rules, Bodhi. In the process, a hero cop off-duty cop and the security officer,
oldest security guard in the world.
I mean, he's up there, and they decide to kind of be the heroes of this in doing so. And,
it would have been great if that guy just threw his gun at,
right.
Throw back to Tommy Boy.
and they fall right, and he takes a couple shots in the process, and they basically kill for sure one of them.
Yeah,
they actually kill the younger brother Nathaniel at that point,
right?
And you get this shot of and this is where Bodhi turns. He holds the gun into his hand and he kind of slow draws it across as this guy is trying to get another shot off. And just shoots him in the chest.
Yeah, boom.
Another guy has actually gotten shot in the process, but he's okay. Also, Keanu gets shot, but he's fine.
Right.
And
the hero walks away.
And he gets knocked out, right? FBI, of course, comes back into the place. And for sure, Johnny's fired, right? He has to be.
He should be fired.
He should have been fired.
They handcuff him. Harp is talking mad shit.
Right, Harp's talking mad shit. Angela comes in and knocks the shit out of Harp, and he says, "Let me take him in." So he does. He takes him in, right? But he doesn't take him in. He uncuffs him instead, and he says, "I guess you have this idea of where these guys are going to be." And he's like, "Yes, I do." And so, of course, by the way, Johnny did not know that was an off-duty cop when that guy got shot.
Yeah, it was like a perfect storm of bullshit. If the cop wasn't there, they probably would have got away with the vault. They didn't go for the vault. They would have left before the cop would have made his move. So.
Right, and it's kind of interesting because you could actually see how disgusted he is with his own actions by this. So it was also really good. So they go to Santa Monica Airport and. Johnny gets there first. Roach, and he's basically talking them all down, and Pappas is kind of hiding around a corner somewhere. He pops out, looks like he has a shot, and Roach comes up behind him and basically pumps a shotgun right into his back, and I mean boom, and I'm like, oh man, he's out,
he's done.
No. He turns around and shoots Roach right in the chest, and this other guy's shooting at him. I can't remember, Grami, I think is his name, and he shoots him no problem. But as he's falling down with his shotgun, he winds up getting Angelo and killing him, and this goes back to bad acting.
Right.
It goes, Angelo, no.
Right. So Angelo's done. The rest of Bodhi's gang
is pretty much
essentially done.
Right. And in this process, they go up into this plane, right? Because, of course, something has to happen. Johnny gets into the plane, and Roach is dying for sure. Like Johnny even calls him out on it. He's all you don't want to know why you're feeling cold. You're dying, Roach. You've lost a lot of blood, and you're going to be dead soon. I hope it was worth it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, if they turned themselves in, maybe he would have lived.
Right. But, so
But
Roach,
Bodhi, he can't.
But Bodhi's all the way gone.
I've gone too far.
So
I got to go to Australia.
So Roach gets thrown out of this plane with the parachute on, and he launches the parachute, which means he died while pulling the parachute and then died in the process.
Like floating down. like he lasts long enough to just
to pull the
to be
ripcord.
Like, yeah, we made it, and then they go to him and he's straight up
dead. Right. Bodhi goes out with his parachute, and of course that just leaves Johnny on the plane with no parachute, and he does a really stupid, badass thing. And he basically goes and he jumps out. He jumps out of the airplane with no parachute on, and I'm like, okay, like this is happening now. And even to this day, this is a badass scene.
He's starting to believe.
So on the way down, Johnny has the gun in the wrong hand, unfortunately, and they both need to pull the ripcord, of course. So Johnny pulls the ripcord, but he has to lose the gun in the process.
Yeah, he drops his gun.
Right. Hanging in there. And by the way, there is one thing about this movie that I'm kind of stunned about. Like they're pretty close to the ground when they start pulling.
Yeah, they should have hit hard.
They should have hit really fucking hard. like they were only 4,000 feet up.
Yeah.
I think minimum launch range is 2,000.
Right.
So and they were for sure pulling the ripcord at maybe 1,000 feet.
Right.
If that. And so I'm like, people are going to have broken legs after this.
Oh, sure.
But no, people walk away, which is the one thing I had a problem with this movie.
I mean, unless you're going to hit the ground sideways and start rolling.
Right. And so after they land, Johnny's knee, of course, is still messed up because he's only had 1 day of recovery,
right,
on this basically torn ACL.
He's been running around with it, essentially.
I mean he's got to be hurting. Right. And Bodhi says, "Well, you don't get your guy today." But he does the one thing that I actually really respect. He could have killed Tyler.
Right.
He would have been cool with it. He's all like, let her go. Yeah. Which kind of falls back into his own mantra of not wanting to basically cause violence, unnecessary violence. Basically.
Right. If you look at this as a sort of a positive reading for Bodhi, you would say that killing Tyler was never really part of the plan.
Right.
Right.
I agree. So 2 years or a year later, right? Because a year later, early in the movie, we didn't discuss this, but Bodhi had a prediction of what is a 50-year storm.
Yeah,
where basically every 50 years, the Mother Nature fights back, basically, and it's supposed to happen in this cycle. It's supposed to happen in this cycle, and it's happening at Bells Beach, Australia.
Right? Doesn't it moves to different beaches, but the next one is definitely gonna be in Australia,
right? And so there's these colossal amounts of water, rainfall, and out comes Keanu, riding solo here, and he goes and he basically says, I found Rosie dead a week later because I've been to every beach in Mexico ever since.
Rosie got himself stabbed in a knife fight or something, just being Rosie,
right? And he missed him in Sumatra and then Fiji. He was basically all over the world trying to chase Bodhi at this point.
Apparently, he was just on his tail the whole time,
right?
Just missing him.
Which again, how are you not fired? But okay,
yeah, that's the part that trips me out because
I'm people die.
I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but he is with the Australian police. With excuse me. And so, the Australian police is with the Interpol. He still has his badge.
I'm like, how did nobody fire you? Did they not find you at fault? And then they were just you know what? You're a good cop.
You're so fired.
So
they're please leave.
They have this fight. Bodhi in Utah, and it's a good fight, but it's definitely it doesn't hold anything to the earlier fights, in my opinion. There's kind of this drowning scene that may have happened, but in the process, Utah handcuffs Bodhi in the process, and he's just and he starts throwing a tantrum. He's like, I gotta turn you in, man. I gotta turn you in. You gotta go. And Bodhi's like, come on, man. Where am I going to go? I'm not going to paddle to New Zealand. There's cliffs on either side.
It's like, it's right there. Let me just surf it, man.
Right. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, man. And so he decides he basically begs him. He doesn't want to die in a cage. And it's time that his, compadre went down or whatever. Anyways, Utah cuffs him. And he gets on the surfboard. And these Australian police are like, you let him go. What the fuck are you doing? You let him go. He's like, trust me, I did it. And then they're like, well, we'll get him when he comes back in. And he's like, he won't, as Bodhi goes off and clearly is not going to survive these waves. These are some serious fucking waves.
Like this big ass mother wave. Just
like these waves are minimum 30 feet.
Oh man, I would even say like 50 foot. Like it dashed. Like you see him go into the mouth of it, and he's gone.
Right. And that's Point Break.
Oh wait, no. And so Utah pulls out his badge, looks at it, and throws it into the ocean and walks off.
Right, and he's not coming back. And that's Point Break.
Awesome movie.
Like almost 30 years later with this movie, it's aged so well. Especially because it's like the renaissance of Keanu, as we've talked about.
Yeah, we are in the Keanu-sance.
But man, I really miss Patrick Swayze after this movie. Oh, God.
Like, yeah, that dude's super underrated. And that's a weird thing to say because he's a very popular actor. He's been leading man in a bunch of movies. But yeah, he is just, like, every character he plays is just so cool. And just, like, even in this movie where he's the bad guy, which I don't really look as Patrick Swayze's the bad guy in this movie.
No, but he is.
But he is the antagonist.
Right. He's definitely the villain. Somebody had to play a villain in this movie, and he's definitely the one.
Right.
But
John C. McGinley's too much of a weenie to be the actual villain. So
right.
At least in context of this movie.
Lund, who's getting your That Guy award?
Oh my God, that guy. I'm giving it to Bodhi.
Go ahead, why?
Oh my God. Bodhi. Like, look, Bodhi did nothing wrong. Think about it, like, if everything just happened the way he wanted, like, look, what's his biggest, like, look, before the turn, which the movie, the universe makes him take. What was he stole money from a bank, insured money.
Right.
But, he was just sticking it to the man.
Better way to fight back at the system, man.
Right. He's just tearing down the patriarchy, man.
Right.
He's just destroying, patriarchal war complex, like power structures.
Right.
Those are the only people he's stealing from, man. And then the, FBI goes them super hard, and then some people end up dead. But
right.
Let me ask you this. Who killed someone first in this movie? Was it Keanu or was it Patrick Swayze? It was Keanu.
It was definitely Keanu. Who's getting you that chick award?
Well, since there's only one chick in the movie, I'm giving it Tank Girl.
I mean, you could technically say the bitch that was like at the front door.
The meth chick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we talked about this with Blue Streak. There is no strong chick in that movie outside of Charisse.
Right. There's only one.
And she only has a 2-minute role in this movie, and she's more memorable than whatever Nicole Ari Parker was doing in that movie. Right. Anyway,
definitely Lori Petty.
Yeah, I mean she was cool. She did play the damsel, but she was cool.
Yeah, but she went kicking and screaming.
Right. That Fool award.
That Fool. I mean, I think it has to go. I'm gonna give it to Harp.
All right, why?
Because he was a straight up dick. Like, pull the stick out of your ass. Well, I don't know what to say, man. Like, I get it, because he's, in charge, I guess. And he's, straight laced by the books. But he was, just the weirdest, caffeine enema, weird insult throwing dude. I don't even know what to say.
He's all like, I don't want my agents to drink. I don't want them to smoke. I'm like, how do you expect them to be agents then?
Yeah, worst boss ever, man. Hey.
Cut that out. Is there a scene in this movie you cut out?
That I would just cut straight out? Give me one second.
Even shortened?
Because every scene, all the scenes are good. Okay. I don't know if I could cut it out. Because here's my thing, right? And this goes back into my theory of how time is circular in this movie, right? I can never remember what order the scenes go in because every scene in this movie is another scene that happens in the movie, but just with slight tweaks.
Right.
Because we see the bank robbery like 3 times. Like
it's true.
We see the surf stuff. We see the Lord, like even just like Pappas and their banter, or like Harp chewing them out. It's like you see every scene almost in this movie twice, and it's kind of like how I said that like even though there's like hundreds of background extras and there are characters, there's essentially like 6 characters.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, I think you can take 5 seconds off of every scene.
Okay, cool. And iconic scene.
Oh man. Oh.
Yeah, it is
definitely. It's definitely the confrontation of Bodhi and John Utah in the like ravine.
Right.
All right, I guess I gotta sling it back at you. Who is you're that guy?
There are parts of me that kind of want to give this to Johnny, because at the end of the day, he's just trying to do his job and he's trying to do it effectively. But he realized that's a catalyst of in a sense, destruction. But you can't give it to you can't give it to anybody else but Patrick Swayze.
That's right.
Like Bodhi is the embodiment of cool. Like everything he does. First of all, he's like super in tune with nature. Have you ever known he never badmouths any of his friends? He never disowns anybody. He literally listens to everything and they have to say. He's like, no, we're gonna do it this way.
Right. And he like each, even though he's turning like evil, or he has that turn, every time someone goes down, you could tell that like a part of his soul.
It affects him.
Yeah,
it really does affect him, and it's like he's sitting there, and you could see that's the one thing I liked about it. Like every guy who died, except for I think he just knew with the roach, But like every guy he died, he was taking it personal.
Yeah,
because this was really like his group, his clan.
Right.
These were his buddies.
There was no infantry for his. Everyone served. Everyone.
Right.
Someone lost.
They weren't going to serve. They weren't going to fucking like work 9 to 5 jobs like I do.
So many 9 to 5 jobs you have.
like they were just gonna go. Yeah. So Bodhi.
Okay, that girl.
You do have to give it to Lori Petty in this one. Again, this kind of follows into that stigma of the 1990s where women didn't really get their prominent roles. But I gotta give credit to Lori Petty because she is memorable in this movie. Because she's kind of like this tough as nails, like kind of a hard ass chick, but like she's she's just look, she's living her life. She's living it the way that she kind of wants to. And in a sense, she just doesn't want to get heartbroken. And she does kind of get heartbroken. Yeah. And I'm curious if they actually lasted. Like, because that's really not clear. Like, did he save her and she was like, yeah, I can't do this. Get the fuck out of my life.
It definitely could go either way.
Right.
And, like, you can tell she buys into the philosophy.
Right.
But at the same time, she's like, I'm not taking shit from nobody.
Right. So, yeah. So, Lori Petty.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we're talking about That Fool.
Yep, That Fool award. My That Fool is actually going to go to the 4 original guys, including Tone and Bunker, and then the 2 nameless guys. And the reason why is because, like, what is your MO? Like, what are you guys doing with anything in general? Like, you guys are just some hard asses who, like, fucking surf and then just, like, want to kick the shit out of everybody and anything in this life. But it was like, there's nothing, you guys have no catalyst and whatnot. You just want to be crystal meth dealers.
No, they're goons. They're just goons.
They're just goons. They're just 4 goons in this movie.
Like, they sell crystal meth. Like, they make some, like, all these violent interactions and crimes. They have some ties to, like, some, like...
You drive like an asshole. You were begging to get your ass whooped.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah. Just rabid dogs. Okay, we got iconic scene.
Cut that out.
Okay. Sorry. Cut that out.
There isn't anything I would cut that out, to be honest, because you're right. There is a lot of circular motions in this movie, but there's a lot of callbacks to like earlier things that are said, and it kind of forces you to pay attention.
Yeah.
Look, let's be fair about this movie. This movie is amazing. And
I agree.
And it is a great movie, but there are some dumb moments in this movie that are just like, okay, like,
oh sure,
like that's just a little too convenient.
Yeah, there is those community connections. I think we've talked about it.
Like Johnny's backstory is a little too convenient. Like, oh, star quarterback of the Ohio State University decides to become an FBI agent who decides to move out to Southern California, come to find out he's incredibly smart and can fucking track down these guys no problem as a rookie. Right. Come on.
And his fame works in his favor as far as infiltrating these guys.
Right. Like, come on.
Yeah, there is some coincidence. And like I said, I feel like the movie does have like a lot of circular things, but I think it's to the movie's credit because it's like I said, I think like I buy into this idea that like Patrick Swayze when he learned how to kickbox and
now I'll agree with this. Here's how I honestly feel like about that, because in a way it's kind of like continuations of stuff.
Right.
Ironically, the Fast and the Furious, the very first Fast and the Furious, is this movie as a remake.
Right.
Like everything,
but with cars instead of surfing.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything about the Fast and the Furious, you can literally say it's a shot for shot. Like Paul Walker is Johnny Utah.
Right.
Vin Diesel is Patrick Swayze.
Yeah.
You know, you have the dumb friends, right? That kind of surround them. You know, the only difference is that there's 2 chicks in that movie instead of the 1.
Right.
Right. But there's always, but it's almost a shot for shot for it. And it's also why it's so cool, because it's like, it's not only like Swayze's like thing. It's also like Johnny is a tryhard that's really doing his job well. You know, it's
but he
everything.
starts drinking the Kool-Aid, and
right? He starts drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit, and he's like, you know, this life isn't that bad.
Yeah.
You know, but it's something that I really, really, really appreciate about it. But in terms of cut that out, I wouldn't cut anything out.
Like, yeah, I agree. And that's why I think I wanted to bring up a point, but it's hard to say what you would cut out.
Right.
Okay, so iconic scene.
Iconic scene does have to go to starting from the chase all the way up until Johnny like unloads the barrel, because it's like it's an intense moment. Johnny knows at this point. Johnny knows, and he has to play through his head while chasing him like I got to catch him. These are the bad guys. I got to catch him. These are the bad guys. This is my job. This is what I do. I am an FBI agent.
Yeah. Johnny knows, then they know, and then Johnny knows they know.
Right. And so it's like you're sitting there, and right when he has that look and that getting ready to get shot, and you're just like, oh man, like that. Like, put yourself in that position. Imagine getting close to a group of people only to come to find out that they're criminals, like this entire time. Forget the surfing, all right? Come to find out that you're super cool with these people, but it's your job to capture them.
Yeah, the best people you've ever met in your life.
Right. Like people who have truly influenced the way that you live. You surf every day now. How are you going to pull the trigger on them? I can't.
And that question was like and that's why I say he's such a good actor in this movie too. Because that like, are you going to shoot me questions just in Patrick Swayze's eyes,
right,
through a mask as he's like huffing and puffing against this chain link fence.
It's so good,
so good.
But yeah, so yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
and that's Point Break. All right, let's get into some quick hits. Let's wrap this thing up, and yeah, it's gonna be great. So, Patrick Swayze was an accomplished skydiver and took a big part in the big skydiving scene.
Whoa.
He actually made 55 jumps in total throughout his entire career, which is insane to think about.
That is awesome.
Keanu Reeves observed real FBI agents in Los Angeles to study for the role. For that football scene, he actually practiced with UCLA quarterback coaches to help with that football scene, which is it wasn't even that big of a scene, but he still did it.
I'm sure he would use those lessons in later movies.
Of course he did. Johnny Utah became an FBI agent after a knee injury ended his football career. In real life, Keanu Reeves was actually an aspiring hockey player who suffered a knee injury and went on to become an actor. Patrick Swayze, participating as skydiving as a hobby, as we mentioned, was told to stop for insurance purposes once production began. Producers coaxed him into the agreement with the promise of letting the star do one actual skydive on screen. The uncut shot of Bodhi yelling, "Adios, amigo!" and falling from the plane features Swayze actually making a jump. By the way, another iconic scene in this movie when Johnny goes to Bodhi, and again, bad actor, he's just all like, "Vaya con Dios."
Vaya con Dios.
like, oh, that stuck out so bad to me.
Monsignor, Martinez would he would 50 Hail Marys. I don't know.
Right.
I'm not Catholic. I'm sorry.
The scene in which Utah jumps after Bodhi without a parachute was tested by Mythbusters in 2003. It was determined. First of all, I need to watch that episode now because how did you test that?
Yeah, I gotta see that.
It was determined that Utah and Bodhi would not have been able to free fall for 90 seconds, as in the film, or nor would they have been able to hold a conversation in midair. However, it was determined that by streamlining his body, Utah could have conceivably caught up with Bodhi after jumping from the plane.
Oh, we all know that.
Right.
I've seen Eraser.
Yeah, we all seen Eraser. I'll give you guys two more. 20th Century Fox had plans for a sequel to the film to be released in the summer of 93. In fact, a script had been written and was in pre-production. Despite the film grossing $90 million worldwide, the studio decided to scrap the project.
Oh man, I kind of would love to get a streamlined version of that, just to see what the actual plot would be.
Right. And finally, the film inspired a piece of cult theater known as Point Break Live, in which the role of Johnny Utah is played by an audience member chosen by popular acclamation after a brief audition. The new Keanu reads all of his or her lines from cue cards for the duration of the show to capture the rawness of a Keanu Reeves performance, even from those who generally think themselves incapable of acting.
Whoa.
And that, guys, is Point Break. I love this movie. I really do.
Yeah, me too.
I can really watch this movie probably like every week, in my opinion. But that almost concludes Super Throwback September. We got one more week to go. I will say that Jay will be back on the show. Jay obviously is still sort of recovering from everything, so he felt good last time. But he was like, you know what? Go ahead and take another week with Lund. Lund will also be here for next week's Super Throwback September.
Oh, yeah.
As we try to figure out a way to continue to incorporate Lund as much as we possibly can. But that being said, my guy, Leland Harrison, where can they find you?
You can find me at Leland Hairston at all the things.
All the things.
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I should check my Twitter more often.
Yep, you should.
I should.
And of course, guys, you can always find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat. What else am I? I'm on everything. At David Agent Neff. I'm the co-host here at Back to the Classics as we kind of roll through the month of September through here. Got a lot of interesting stuff that's kind of coming out. For those content creators who are interested into actually booking an actual studio to make things work, we do host Beat Studios right here in Las Vegas. So please feel free to reach out. BeatNetworkOnline.com/Beat Studios. We will make sure that we can get you guys booked, edited, and out the door with your podcast, video podcasts, porn tape, whatever. we can do this however many ways that you basically want to. Of course, the Facebook group, back to the Classics, and also Spoiling the Classics, is up and popping on Facebook. So please make sure you go there. The Instagram page at BTTC Podcast is also up and running. So please make sure you check us out. And we will have constant updates about everything that we have going on from the noise, as well as follow all of our other shows at BeatNetworkOnline.com. And
Also catch us on YouTube.
Yes, my lord, please catch us on YouTube. We still have old Reel It Back episodes that you can always catch. You can also catch us. The Back to the Classics podcast, it goes on over there. We will be coming back on video. We promise you guys that. I'm hoping it happens before the end of the year, but we kind of have to see what the holidays have in store for us. So
know how that goes.
We're going to be broke.
Buying them presents.
Anyways, that being said, that pretty much wraps this thing up. Once again, I want to give a special thanks to Leland Harrison here, my boy Lund, for once again helping us out on such a tight pinch of scheduling. I want to figure something out permanently for you. I really, really, really do. We just got to figure that out.
Gee golly, I'm just blushing over here. Thanks for having me. I love doing this.
That's awesome. And once again, and that pretty much wraps it up. So say thanks to Leland. I'm David Danger Neff, and this is Back to the Classics. Peace.
Peace.